Well, Easter is just a few days away, and coming up, we've got a few little tidbits and fun facts, but we also have the definitive worst and best Easter candies.
Okay.
There will be no debate. We will not take questions.
It's the ultimate answers.
It's just what it is. So we're glad you're here. So happy to have you back. Let's start as we usually do, just to catch up a little bit on what we're watching, what we think you might enjoy. And please, I love the interaction we've gotten the past couple of times. We've talked about this. Some folks disagreeing with some of our reviews, some agreeing, and then there's some throwing out some other ideas. Please keep doing that.
And you're welcome to disagree with me as long as you're okay being wrong.
We're talking about The Night Agent specifically, and I have no comment on that because I just haven't watched it, and I don't know that I ever will.
There's nobody that can honestly say it's as good as 24. It wants to be 24. It's just not as good. That's all I'm saying.
Gonna rile them up again.
Yes.
So what are we watching? Katie and I watched the other night. It was like an early release. She said, let me take you to the movies at home. So she dropped $20, and we watched the new Woody Harrelson movie, Champions. Now, we talked about this trailer, shows ago, and the trailer looked really good, and I was really excited to see it. And it's good. I mean, it's good. And then
it just didn't go that extra.
It didn't. I expected to laugh more. I also expected to have my heart warmed more. And in the end, those things happened a little bit, but it left me, my tank wasn't full.
Okay, gotcha.
I felt like it got me, 3/4 of a tank. So it's good. I wouldn't drop $20 on it to watch it now.
I watched Murder Mystery 2 with the family. The mother-in-law was in town. We were looking for something. They loved it. They asked me what I would rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, and I said a solid 5. And I was ridiculed.
Ridiculed?
Well, I think they were looking for something lighthearted and fun, and that's what it is. It was not, if I had spent $10 at the movie theater on that, I would have been not happy.
Well, that's my thing. There are plenty of lighthearted, fun things that don't suck.
Yeah, it's true. Solid point.
I'm just throwing that out there. And again, I'm an Adam Sandler fan. I'm a Jennifer Aniston fan. I know it's easy money for them, so good for them for doing it. Just not my cup.
And the fact that it was big stars in it, and they were able to get those big stars because they spent less on jokes.
We got to cut back on jokes. If we only did 3 jokes in this scene instead of 6, could we get this guy? Oh
yeah, we can afford it now.
Okay, and then we're watching a show on Apple because we just we have a lot of stuff we're watching. We're watching Succession, and we're watching Perry Mason, and we're watching Lucky Hank, and all these things. But that's only a few hours a week of entertainment. I need to be entertained constantly.
Yes, you do.
So we tried something on Apple because it's got a guy that I really like. His actor's name is Kris O'Dowd. And the best way I can describe him, if you don't watch a lot of British movies, I believe he was in, what's the female Hangover ripoff?
Bridesmaids?
I think he's in Bridesmaids.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people saw that. I did not. But he's also Paul Rudd's, he works for Paul Rudd's record company in This Is 40.
Oh, okay.
So those are a couple of ways you might recognize him. So the show is called The Big Door Prize. And in a nutshell, this very tiny little town, I'm not even sure where it is, one day at the general store, this machine has just shown up. Okay. And nobody knows how it got there. Like the guy who owns the store is like, how did this even, who delivered this? And the kid was like, I don't know. I was here, but I didn't see anybody. And the idea is you go in, you drop in whatever the money is, and it tells you your life's potential, like what you should be doing with your life or what you truly are.
Oh, I don't want that.
Yeah, I know. And then it goes from there. And of course, some people are very happy with what they're hearing. Some people are very sad with what they're hearing. It's causing some real relationship problems. So it's kind of, I can see it like tearing the town apart in a way. We don't know where it's going yet. And it's a show that's pretty good. It's got some laughs and it's cute. It's kind of like other shows we've talked about. I'm going to keep watching it because now I need to know what
You're
happens.
invested.
But it's not awesome. It's just good.
Gotcha.
It's out there if you want to check that out. And then you went back to an old school.
Well, my mother-in-law suggested a show she found was hilarious, Modern Family, and I never got on board with it, and I'm still a little angry about it because they just completely ripped off the Office format of looking at the camera. And I was like, is it a documentary? And they're like, no. And I'm like, but they're looking at the camera and doing so that kind of bugs me. But there were some solid jokes in it, and I got a kick out of it. But what I found was, and you and I are cursed with this, because of our job. Yes, all of the above.
Comedy.
We can see a setup of a joke a mile away. So like when a scene starts, I'm like, punchline's going to be the guitar. And then like a minute later, they're like, oh, the guitar. And then you hear the laugh track or whatever. And so Lily was angry at me, mad at me. She's like, quit ruining this. Because as soon as the scene would start, I'd be like, punchline's going to be, because I can see the joke a mile away coming. And So I'm like, okay, I'm banned from talking and having fun. And then I read an article.
Banned from talking and having fun. You are banned from having fun, sir.
Well, it's true. So I am watching or reading an article about one of the co-creators of Ted Lasso, and he was talking about being fired from Friends, and he got fired from all these shows, and now he's co-creator of Ted Lasso. But he said his party trick is doing just that, and his kids love it. He goes, as soon as the scene starts, my kids will go, "Hey, what's the joke, Dad?" And he'll say, "The joke is this," and they all love it and clap. And I'm like, so he is praised. I am cursed.
He is revered. You are reviled.
Exactly.
That's your life story.
I know.
I'm so sad for you.
Terrible.
The thing about Modern Family, I like the people that are in it. I watched, I think, when it first came out, because everybody was like, "This is the funniest show," and I watched 3 or 4 episodes, and I was like, "When does it get funny?" I just didn't find it funny, and I mean, no offense, because I know it has a ton of fans. I'm in the minority. I think a show like this, and there's nothing wrong with this, appeals to the lowest common denominator. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean,
they have to do that for television.
That's it. They want to spread that net as wide as they can spread it, and they don't want to be a niche show. They want to be a show that appeals to as many people as possible. That's why Jay Leno was so popular on The Tonight Show as opposed to David Letterman. David Letterman is funnier. He's a better interviewer. It's a cooler show. But it also didn't appeal to that larger net.
Well, in today's world, they flat out say they want to have a show that can keep people's attention while they're looking at their phone, talking to their partner, and the TV's on there. And at the end of it go, "That was funny."
And my thing is, I'm just the opposite. I'm like, why would I waste my time on something like that when they're making content like The Consultant and Severance and all these things that really put you, I mean, you think, and it's interesting and it's so well written.
Well, that's the reason why Arrested Development never exploded, because you had to pay attention, because if you weren't, then you missed 30 jokes.
Yeah, it was just a 20 gag a minute kind of show. There's just always stuff going on. But anyway, so so your final thought on Modern Family was just,
I was entertained with what I watched. I mean, it's a tough week on ratings for me. It was like let me just put it this way: I haven't gone, I've got to tune back in and see what happens. It's been like, yeah, next time she's down and she wants to watch that, I have no problem with that.
I felt that way with the Goldbergs, because Katie started watching that, and she was like, "Yeah, to watch it," and we watched it. And the early the seasons were pretty good, because mostly for nostalgia though. Because I mean, I grew up in that same time, and I thought, okay, it's pretty good. But at the end of the day, I'm like, network television just sucks now.
Yep,
sorry,
that's true.
Not great. Okay, and then one other old school. I watched Shawshank the other night again for like the 100th time, and that movie it never gets old to me. It's still such a beautiful story, and for my money, maybe the best Stephen King adaptation that they have ever put on screen. Because usually when they take his books and make movies, they ruin them.
And you think about all the people that were offered those roles: Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks, and it was perfect the way it ended up.
And it didn't do well at the movie theater. I mean, even then, it wasn't really a hit. It took it getting to video before it really became this cult hit.
Morgan Freeman, to this day, there's still a clip of it, says the problem was the name. He said everybody that saw it loved it. He goes, it was marketing, because people would come up to him and go, "I love that Flim Flam Redemption." And he'd be like, no.
And they shortened it, because the book's title, it's based on a short novel called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. So they even cut a piece of that off, and it's still, I get it, it can be challenging to market, but such a good movie. The other night, you got to go to a gig. Rachel had a thing going on.
Yeah, Cherokee Country Club here in Knoxville.
Hoity-toity.
Yeah, and it was a sold-out room. They had to move it to a bigger room. And it was exactly what we envisioned when we moved over to East Tennessee, when we wanted to start the songwriter shows.
Sure.
Everybody loved it. Everybody had a good time. And there was so many talented young ladies that got up there and sang. And there's one in particular, and I'm sorry I'm not naming everybody, but that really stood out to me because she sounded a lot like Alanis Morissette.
Cool.
Her name was Zoe Nutt, and we'll put her info up. But she has such an interesting story. She's hard of hearing. She had the cochlear implants put in, so she has to have her headphones on. And when she sings, but it was just interesting to me to think, I can't sing and I can hear. And here she is with this against her and still is amazing. And I just found that so interesting.
Well, I mean, stories like, I mean, it's the ultimate challenge. I mean, like Beethoven, you know, to be deaf, but to write the music he wrote, to have a struggle hearing, but still be able to match those tones and everything. It's incredible.
And that confidence.
Yeah. To get up in front of people knowing you have that challenge, and good for her. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
My story for Katie and I, it was no hoity-toity thing. We went out to our local mall here in Knoxville, West Hills Mall, and we picked up a couple things, and then we were by a restaurant. So they had like two basically like anchor restaurants. There's a Cheesecake Factory, of course, and then close by there's like a Tex-Mex place. I don't know the name of it. So, and it's right by Williams-Sonoma, which is where we were. So she's like, "Hey, do you want to grab some dinner?" Sure, it's early. Yeah, great. So we go and we have dinner. We're leaving the restaurant at like 8:30. and they've already got the gate down from the restaurant back out into the mall. And I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. I guess we'll go out and around and go back in to the regular door. We get out to the regular door, and it's locked. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? This mall closed at 8 o'clock at night on a Thursday night.
Wow.
I'm like, are we in a hayseed town? And the answer is yes. It has to be, because who closes a mall at 8 p.m.?
In my hometown growing up, I think it closed at 10 on weekends and 9 during the week.
And that was a tiny little town, because I grew up there. So we were pretty shocked. And the thing that really pissed me off about it was not only the inconvenience. Okay, well, now we got to go get it back to the garage. Well, the parking garage is on the opposite side of the mall.
Should have Ubered.
I told Katie at one point, I said, should we call Lyft and just get them? We had to walk the entire perimeter of the mall, and there's no way to cut through. They have no places where you can cut back through. So they built this parking garage. And oh, by the way, if you end up eating dinner at one of our 2 major restaurants, we're going to screw you. If you eat past 8 o'clock at night, you're going to have to walk. If it had been raining, I would have thrown a garbage can through the door.
I'm sorry that you're so upset, although I find it humorous. But I'm just curious about, let's be honest, about half the people you see in Cheesecake Factory are on a rascal. So maybe that's what they're thinking is like, oh, they can get over to the other side on the wheels.
I kind of laughed it off. We were laughing a little bit at first as we walked, but the problem that I was having is I'm in twofold. Number one, I'm like, okay, well, this is ridiculous. I have to walk the entire opposite side of the mall. And secondly, I have a mild tendonitis injury in my left ankle right now from riding too hard the other day on the bike. So now I'm out walking on an injured ankle, and I'm stewing. And Katie's like, I'm going to call the mall. And I'm like, they're not going to change their policy, because if they're dumb enough to put this policy in place in the first place, they certainly aren't going to see the logic or reason in changing it. But everywhere we've ever lived, when the mall closes, you still can walk through it to get to the other side, because they're big malls and they have multiple restaurants. And if you chose to park on that side of the mall earlier in the day and then came and spent your money at that mall, and then they're going to make you walk the perimeter of which is not safe. There's nobody out there. There's no security. They're nowhere to be seen. It was unbelievable. And I'm not like furious, but I'm just
sound pretty mad.
Oh no, this is nothing. But I'm just blown away, I guess, by how stupid that is. Anyway, that's our mall story. That's why I don't go to the mall anymore.
I can't even go get some Tex-Mex without an incident.
And here's the thing too: that restaurant is just okay. It's not like,
it's not great.
I got to have this food, but Katie likes it more than I do, and I'm like, well, we'll eat here. It'll be fine. So then I get screwed again. I got screwed twice by the same food.
That's fantastic.
Different ways.
Anyway. Love everything about this.
On a much cooler note, science and stuff. The first trip to the moon in 50 years?
This is twofold, the reason why this is happening. And they are spending a lot of money to make this happen. And it is like, they're not landing on the moon, right? They're just going around
They're doing the same thing that I think Apollo 8 did, which was like the figure 8 around the moon and then coming back in preparation for the next flight.
Yes, this is for 2 reasons. Number one, to disprove that Transformers movie.
I knew that was coming.
That there's no Transformers on the dark side of the moon. And then also, you flat earthers out there, saddle up.
Yeah.
You're about to get shown up.
Yeah.
Unless this is a conspiracy and it's all done fake with CGI.
Yes, it's Capricorn 1 all over again.
Yes.
Look it up. So anyway, it's very cool. The crew is very diverse, and I think it's very exciting for them to be able to do something like this. And of course, this is all part of a plan they will go back to the moon, I think on Artemis 3, I think. Mm-hmm. And they said that would be in 2025. And it's all planned to start trying to get people out to Mars.
Yep.
And I saw The Martian with Matt Damon. I think if they're very careful, it could be great, but just make sure you bring a lot of food and potatoes.
Don't Uber it. Take a real ship.
Yeah, you want the real deal for sure. Have you seen the Justine Bateman? I don't want to call it a controversy.
Well, it's debate that's going on about, but Rachel brought it up, and we both agree and love it that she's that confident, and people shouldn't be so worried.
People were asking her, what work have you had done? And she's like, I don't do that. I've never done that. I'm not going to do that. I believe that people should age gracefully and they should age naturally, and that's why I look like this. I think I'm rocking it. I think I look great. And good for her, because talk about being the outsider in the Hollywood world. Everybody gets something done. Even people you think haven't had work, I promise you, they've had work.
Remember we had Hollywood's top surgeon on years ago, and he was dropping names of people, and he goes, the key for most men, he goes, if they're over 35, I've seen them. And at that time, this was years ago, but he was like, I had Harrison Ford in. He goes, I always tell the guys in their late 40s, come in for one thing, one facelift, and then don't ever do it again. It'll buy you 10 years. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. He goes, women will never listen to me. I'm like, do it one time. It'll buy you 5, 10, 15 years. But they always come back and want a little more.
Well, and I won't name names, but you're going to see faces because they're going to come up on the screen. A few examples of some actresses who were beautiful, but who got carried away and who didn't know how to say no and stop.
Just desperate to look young instead of just owning themselves.
Instead, they just look insane and weird.
And I see it now with filters on social media. There's some people, and there's one guy we both know that's my age. He looks like a cartoon because he's so filtered. And I want to go to him and say, dude, you're not fooling anybody, and you don't look better. You look like a cartoon.
Yeah. It's a shame. I'm so happy for Justine Bateman. I think she's fantastic and super talented. And it's weird that we have to, I don't want to call her a hero, but to say she's so brave. She's just living her life.
Yeah.
And she's opted to do it without messing with her face. And good for her, man.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I still, one of my favorite couple episode arcs of Arrested Development.
Yes.
When she got to be on there with her brother, Jason. It was so good. She's awesome. Could we be seeing Clint Eastwood's last movie very soon?
Or at least the one that he's going to direct.
Yeah. So I didn't realize, I knew he had been tied to Warner Brothers. I didn't know how long. So like 50 years, I think.
Yeah.
He has done all his movies with Warner Brothers, and he wanted his last directorial effort to be with Warner Brothers.
And I read a little behind the scenes on the last one, Cry Macho, was such a bomb, but they knew it was going to be a bomb before it come out. I mean, they know how to test all this stuff. And I guess the new head honcho of Warner Brothers come in and said, why are we greenlighting this movie? And they're like, it's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but we're going to lose money. And they're like, yeah, but it's Clint Eastwood. So I'm sure that he sat down and said, look, dude, let's come up with a plan for you to not direct anymore because your days of directing are over.
And, he's 93 years old. There comes a time, no matter how good you are at what you do, you're going to have to stop.
Yeah. And so, he's not going to direct anymore after this movie. And I don't know what it's about.
It's called, I think the working title, Juror Number 2 is the working title. And I guess basically this juror I think it's either a murder trial or something. They discover through the process that they are somehow responsible for what happened. And so they're deciding if I tell the truth and turn myself in, I'm going to end up in trouble. But if I keep quiet, then I'm not. Sounds kind of interesting. I'm not sure. That was a bad description, but that's the nutshell.
And that will be his last movie he directs. That's the key thing. He's still leaving options open for an Every Which Way But Loose sequel. They're just trying to get Clyde to sign on, and he refuses.
Well, because we had Every Which Way But Loose, Any Which Way You Can.
Yes.
And maybe this will just be, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on Clyde.
Clyde's reaction to being asked to do this movie?
Accurate.
Yeah, we have a tough time getting him. LSU. Congratulations, the ladies of LSU, NCAA basketball champions. Couple of stories out of this, and I admittedly have not done a deep dive, but I find it interesting. So Angel Reese, the player who's like star player, and she has really been in the news because she says, hey, I'm me, and people kept telling me I'm too ghetto and I'm too this, I'm too that. She said, I want to be here for girls who look like me to know that they can make it to this level and do this thing. So all those things, I've heard all that. I guess during the game against whoever it was,
Connecticut? No, I don't know who it was. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Hold on.
I have no idea.
I like that you just threw it out with such confidence. You're turning into me, saying stuff just out of your ass.
The extent of my knowledge of basketball, men or women, begins and ends with Metal Art Lemon.
I think it's Iowa.
Okay,
so Caitlin Clark is the one who's in the middle of this. So I guess earlier in the tournament, during the Elite Eight, Caitlin Clark made this exact same thing, which I guess
the loser or the rings or
the thing through the face, like you can't see me. It's like some.
Gotcha.
I think John Cena started doing it in wrestling, and that became a thing. So Angel Reese does it to her, the same girl, and then people are like, "Oh, that's classless." So it's and
double standard thing.
The whole double. Nobody said a word about it when the other young lady did it, and suddenly because she's done it now, and she she addressed it head on in her press conference, and I said kudos to her. I think that anything like that, no matter who you are, no matter what color you are, is a little classless. But but you expect to see some of that kind of trash talk on these courts. These are sports people. That's what they do.
And the sports people in general, like I told you, we live in a region right now where it is really one of, not everybody, but a lot of classless people that they will talk down, call you names, call out other programs, this. But if somebody says something back, they have the worst hurt feelings you've ever seen.
The thinnest skin in the world.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know what's going to come of it, but it's weird. And then the other thing, I just don't know I don't know why she did this, but I guess Jill Biden said that LSU, of course, will be invited to the White House as they always do. But she said, but Iowa should get to come too. I'm like,
everybody gets a trophy day.
Well,
I just hope they all win.
I guess that's my question. Has the losing team ever been invited along with the winning team? Has that ever happened?
I don't know.
I'd have to do some research on that. I'm too lazy, but it doesn't seem like something I've heard about, and it's not a good look. And I certainly saw a lot of people commenting that, hey,
They should make them have to do something they don't want to do. Like, you got to go to Congress's house.
Congress.
What?
You're going to go over to the vice president's place.
Yeah. Oh, you got to go to Applebee's.
The ultimate punishment. I guess we're not going to get any branded partnership with Applebee's
Maybe
anytime soon.
I'll eat some baby back ribs.
So Easter, just a few days away, and we promise you a few things here.
Yeah, and this year Easter is in April. Now you can either be in March or April. It all depends on whether Jesus sees his shadow or not.
I think you're mixing up a couple of things here.
Well, anyway, go ahead.
It's almost on a Sunday.
Yes, that's true. Super Sunday.
No, it's not called Super Sunday.
Oh, I am really off. I'm just going to back out of this.
Your game's just a little off today. All right. So we'll throw out a couple of little quick fun facts and then the definitive candy ranking.
Okay.
We'll finish this up. All right, so here's a couple of little Easter findings. Just a thing. This will not impact your life in any way, but we're going to throw it out there anyway. About half of us plan to prepare a meal at home for Easter, and it looks like potatoes will play a large role. 70% of people will make potatoes in some form or fashion.
Interesting.
And at first I thought that was weird, but then I remembered my childhood. I mean, we always had ham, and Mom usually made like an au gratin or scalloped potato with it.
Yeah, and coincidentally, at the Last Supper, they had potato skins as an appetizer.
As if I recall correctly, Judas did not chip in.
No, but he ate most of them.
Yeah. Typical Judas. Anyway, it's like we're seeing if we can get shut down before we stop this show. Chocolate, of course, is a big deal. My favorite stat before we get to the candy stuff, and because all this other stuff doesn't matter, about half of the people who have participated in an Easter egg hunt with their kids say their kids have become upset and cried at the actual Easter egg hunt.
Oh, wow.
So if you're thinking about having kids, let that be some birth control for you. Even the most fun, awesome moments that they beg you to be a part of will turn into something terrible.
Just tell them you put a 50 in one of the eggs and then take the afternoon off.
It's out there. All right, so candy. It's a huge part of Easter. The baskets. I mean, Katie is a grown woman, and she expects her parents to send her an Easter basket.
Oh, wow.
I had to send her a little video the other day because a woman had a great short. She comes walking out of the house and she says, I'm leaving. You don't love me anymore. And you just hear the mom inside going, that's not what I said. She says, what did you say? She says, I said, you're 30. That's too old for an Easter basket. Same thing.
Yes.
I said, oh my God, it's
the same thing.
So I may end up having to put an Easter basket together for
Gotcha.
her. I don't know. But what are the candies that people want to see in there? Now, there's all the usuals. And whether you like them or not, I mean, you're always going to see Peeps. You're always going to see jelly beans, things like that. What are the best? What are the worst? Let's get to it. All right, this is definitive. They talked to like 12,000 consumers to put this together, and we'll see. And obviously, if you disagree, you're welcome to put it in the comments. But as we said, this is definitive. We are not taking questions, and we're not debating right now.
Gotcha.
Unless we happen to disagree, in which case we're all over it. 10 worst. Generic jelly beans come in at number 10.
Ugh.
Cheetos, Sweetos, Cinnamon Puffs. Why is this even on this
list?
That
sounds
as
horrible.
Easter candy?
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. I've seen them in the store, but why is this on the list for like Easter candy? That makes no sense to me.
Sounds like a sweat hog's name.
This is weird. Chocolate crosses? Is this a thing? Look, I grew up Catholic, and we are the kings and queens of crosses. They're everywhere. And I never saw anything like this. Didn't know that was a thing. Chicks and Rabbits marshmallow candy.
That sounds like a bad movie that you rent from the room behind a curtain.
Sour Patch Kids white chocolate bunny. Mixing white chocolate with Sour Patch Kids.
No, thank you.
I'm surprised this isn't higher on the list. Oreo cream eggs. I want Oreo to just stick with the cookies.
Yeah.
And stop trying to make new flavors. You got a great thing there.
Yeah.
Stop screwing around. Solid chocolate bunnies at the 4th worst candy. I got news for you. If it's a good quality chocolate, I love a good chocolate bunny. If you give me a hollow bunny, I will burn your house to the ground.
Wow. That's got to be disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. Although it is very much like me.
Although
empty inside.
Or I was going to say, or you could just break off an ear and fill it with toothpaste. And then put it back and let somebody...
And give it back to the person who gave it
yeah.
to you. Oh, it's delicious. You should try it. Number 3 worst, bunny corn or Easter candy corn. I think it's just people who just don't like candy corn, period. Peeps, Easter candy. It's always on the list.
Peeps are awful.
I can take them or leave them. The number 1 and reigning champion for a few years in a row now, the Cadbury cream egg. Here's the problem that I have with Cadbury cream eggs. I don't have a problem with them. I love them. Cadbury sold their company to like Hershey or something a few years ago. And when they did, they immediately started cheapening things up. So the chocolate isn't as rich. The cream isn't as good. So they're not as good as they used to be.
That's what happens. Years ago, this is going back 40 years ago or whatever, when Kentucky Fried Chicken sold, Colonel Sanders said, nope, milk is in the gravy. Milk is in the gravy. And they were like, we can save X amount of millions a year if we replace the milk with water. The day he sold, they replaced the milk with water and just cheapened the gravy a little.
Yeah, so I get the Cadbury thing. I love them, but they're not as good as they used to be. What are the best Easter candies? Hershey's fun-sized candy bars with Easter wrappers, so this is just a cheat.
Yeah.
Same candy you get at Halloween, they just put new wrappers on them. Skittles, filled Easter eggs. Is it Kinder or Kinder?
Don't know.
I see these things a lot. They're Kinder, I think it's Kinder Joy Eggs candy. Mallow Top Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
That sounds awful.
This is like Oreos. Reese's, you got a great thing. The chocolate Reese's eggs, just the eggs, which is just like a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. That's the stuff. Why are you putting marshmallow on top or white chocolate or other stuff?
I don't want marshmallow. When I'm president, marshmallows will be banned.
See, I need to get a waiver.
I'm coming for your marshmallows. I'm taking away your right to have marshmallows.
We're not saying we want to take away your marshmallows. We just want to regulate marshmallows.
Yes, I want to regulate marshmallows.
I mean, it makes total sense. You register your car. Why shouldn't you register your marshmallows?
Thank you.
Foil wrapped chocolate eggs on the best list. Robin's eggs from Whoppers. I want to like these, but I just don't like Whoppers because they're a cheap ripoff of Brock's when they used to do their chocolate malted milk balls, which are delicious. Chocolate bunnies, hollow. This is on the best list.
Why would that make the best in the...
Who made this? You know who must have done this? They must have been old with no teeth.
Yep.
Easier to eat the hollows. You can crack those down.
You gum them.
You're getting less chocolate per square inch. What are you doing? We said this was definitive, but it turns out a bunch of idiots took this survey. So Reese's Peanut Butter Eggs at number 3.
Wow. I wonder what beats that. Probably just plain Reese cups.
So gourmet jelly beans comes in at number 2. So your Jelly Bellies, your Starburst,
gotcha.
All those different flavored jelly beans, and there's some good ones. Interesting, and I guess it's a multi-year winner. The number 1 is the Cadbury Mini Egg, which is just a solid chocolate with that candy coating on the outside, which I actually like less than the regular Cadbury Egg.
So there's your list.
It's way less definitive than I thought it was going to be. I find there's a lot to debate there. We will take a debate. We will take
Jesus
questions.
is going to be so angry when he sees these lists.
If this is the Easter basket he gets, you'll never hear the end of it. Of course, he can fix it pretty quick.
Yeah, if he wants to.
That's his call. All right, top 5 memes of the week. Let's get to them. Okay, we start with number 5, and if you're like us, it's fun to try to guess at people's personalized license plates. So here's the license plate. First glance at that, what do you think that might be? I would say maybe they're a virgin for life or a vegan for life. Either way, they're probably staying off the meat.
That's great. If it was pulling into a Star Trek convention, then we know virgin.
I guess location. Next up, and if you are a couple living together.
Yes, 100% yes.
I think you'll relate to this. Can you not leave the toilet seat up? Look at that counter. With us, it's not the counter so much as the actual space in the shower bathtub, the lines of bottles and creams and lotions.
Yeah, I saw a meme similar that didn't make the list, but it was, a sink with a guy had shaven and there was a little bit of hair around the sink. And it was like, can you please clean up after yourself? And then the next picture was the shower with a wad of hair stuck to the side of the shower.
Yes. Now, to Katie's credit, she has long hair. She's pretty good about getting it up and getting to the garbage, but there's always remnants. Let me just tell you this. You're going to know she was in there. I love this one because, man, it hits hard. Let's be honest. Watching childhood cartoons when you're an adult is really weird.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
One night, you know how I go down the rabbit hole on YouTube and I'll just start watching old music videos or something. I watched an old Super Friends just to see it, and I was just like, man, I wonder what these guys were on when they were making these. Like, there were some definite innuendos in there, and I'm like, this is...
It's like He-Man writing that guy. I didn't watch He-Man, so I'm not sure who that is. If you know who he's writing, put that in the comments, please. Help us out.
There's an out of context. Who's He-Man writing?
Simple. When you're kinky, but poor.
Yeah.
I've never thought to try that.
It works.
I am both of those things. Okay, and our number 1, you're going to have to take a second to really look at this picture. There's a lot going on. If you're not getting taken away in an ambulance with sparkle panties, Oompa Loompas, and 2 crying Easter bunnies, you're just not living your life.
That's going to be a tough one to explain when you get home. Like, hey, kids, you may see Dad on the news.
Some pretty interesting images there.
You're going to explain. It was a real big misunderstanding.
Down the road somewhere, we can talk more about this, but not anytime soon. But see, we tied it back into Easter. Look at that.
That's right.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, maybe you do that. Go check out our other content. We got a ton of shorts that are up on our shorts page. We have other shows just like this.
And more importantly, please share with your friends.
Yeah.
Help us get to 3,000.
Etsy store is open for business. Got new stuff going in there really soon. That link is in the description as well. And we have a very special guest on our next show, breaking away from country to get into comedy.
Yes.
A young man we have known for many, many, many years.
Funny.
He is funny, and he's really starting to pick up a lot of heat. and he's out on his first headlining tour, and we're super excited for him. So make sure you're with us for that show that goes up in a few days. We appreciate you watching.